The conference room is on the 42nd floor of a building in Lower Manhattan. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook the city, but the glass is tinted so dark that the view is more shadow than sight. 7 men sit around a table made of black marble. Dante Russo stands at the head, his tailored suit the only movement in a room built on stillness. "He's moving into our territory," one of the men says. "His name is Carmine, and he's been in the organization for 30 years. He has the kind of face that shows every decision he's made." The warehouse on Fulton. "He's bringing in shipments 3 times a week. We need to respond." Dante listens without responding. He's learned that silence is a tool. Silence makes people nervous. Nervous people make mistakes. "How much product?" he asks finally. "Enough to hurt us. Not enough to kill us." Yet, another man adds. His name is Marco. He's younger, hungrier, the kind of lieutenant who sees every slight as a personal challenge. "Give me 3 days. He'll disappear. His organization will fragment. We consolidate." Dante walks to the window. The tinted glass makes the city below look like it's drowning. He thinks about what his father would have done. His father would have been quick, violent, made an example. His father believed in decisiveness. His father was assassinated at 42. "Find out who he's buying from," Dante says. "Don't touch him yet. Find the source, and we cut it off at the root." He becomes a man with nothing to sell. No violence, no bloodshed. He just disappears. "That takes time," Marco says. "I have time," Dante replies. Violence is what weak men do when they're afraid of losing control. He doesn't add that weak men die at restaurants with bullets in their chests. He doesn't need to. Everyone in this room knows what happened to his father. Everyone in this room understands that Dante is different, colder, more patient, more willing to play the long game. The meeting ends. The men file out of the conference room with their assignments. Marco lingers, wanting to argue, but something in Dante's expression stops him. After he leaves, the office is silent except for the low hum of air conditioning. Dante checks his watch. 1:47 p.m. On Tuesday. In 13 minutes, he needs to leave for Eastbridge. He walks to his office, a space so minimal it's almost empty. A desk. A chair. A photograph of his parents on their wedding day, his father's arm around his mother's waist, her looking at him like he's the only man on earth who could possibly understand her. Dante hasn't thought about that photograph in months. But looking at it now, he thinks about the last time he saw his father. The last conversation they had. Dante was 18. His father was explaining how to read people, how to know when someone was lying, how to maintain power through strategic information. "Control the information," his father said, "and you control the man." His father died 6 months later, and Dante had to learn the rest on his own. He picks up his jacket. The black marble office suddenly feels less like power and more like a tomb. He thinks about his mother in her prison uniform, about the way she holds his hand across the metal table, about the only person in his life who looks at him like he's more than the empire he's built. For a moment, just a moment, the ice cracks. Then he walks out of the office and heads downstairs, where his car is waiting to take him to Eastbridge. Where his mother is waiting. Where, every Tuesday at 2 p.m., Dante allows himself to be something other than the man who controls everything. Where, for 1 hour, he simply lets himself be loved. The kitchen at Eastbridge Correctional Facility operates on a rhythm that exists outside the rest of the prison. While the guards above maintain order through surveillance and routine, the kitchen operates on something older, a careful choreography of women who have learned to communicate without speaking. Imani Walker has been part of this choreography for 5 years. She knows the rhythm the way a musician knows a song they've played 1,000 times. She knows which woman prefers to work the afternoon shift because her cellmate is difficult. She knows which inmates linger over vegetable prep because it keeps their hands busy and their minds occupied. She knows which conversations matter because they happen in whispers while the industrial mixer drowns out sound. She also knows Lucia Russo. Lucia arrived at Eastbridge 18 months ago, and Imani noticed her immediately. Not because of who she was, though the other inmates recognized her name, recognized that she had something to do with money and power on the outside, but because of how she moved. Most women in prison either make themselves small or make themselves loud. Lucia did neither. She simply existed with a kind of quiet dignity that seemed impossible in a place designed to strip dignity away. At first, Lucia worked the night shift in the kitchen. She was efficient but unremarkable. She prepped vegetables with careful precision. She never complained about the long hours or the inadequate equipment. She never asked for preferential treatment despite her obvious connections on the outside. It was this unremarkableness that made Imani curious. After 3 months, Imani requested a shift change to match Lucia's. The guards approved it without question. Women working in the prison kitchen don't make requests for dramatic reasons. They make requests because they prefer certain hours or because they want to work with certain people. Imani's request seemed routine. But it wasn't. One evening, while they were preparing dinner for 200 women, while the industrial mixer hummed loud enough to create a private space, Lucia said something that made Imani pause mid-chop. "My son visits every Tuesday. 2 o'clock. He brings flowers, though they're not allowed in visitation. He hides them in his jacket pocket." Imani didn't respond. She kept chopping. She waited. "He thinks I'm a victim," Lucia continued, her hands moving through vegetables with the same careful precision she brought to everything. "He thinks I'm in here because the system failed. Because he failed. That's what destroys him, the idea that he couldn't protect me." Lucia's hands stilled. The knife rested against the cutting board. "But I'm not a victim. I chose this." Imani stopped chopping. She turned to look at Lucia fully for the first time. And in that moment, she saw something shift in the older woman's expression. A decision being made. A secret being offered. "Why?" Imani asked quietly. Lucia looked around the kitchen, at the other women working, at the guards positioned at intervals, at the world they inhabited together. When she spoke again, her voice was barely audible beneath the industrial noise. "Because some secrets are too dangerous for one person to carry alone. Because my past is catching up with me whether I like it or not. Because if I don't control how it surfaces, it will destroy my son." She picked up her knife again. Her hands resumed their careful work. "My son's name isn't who he thinks it is. My husband isn't who my son believes he was. And I'm not who anyone thinks I am." The industrial mixer hummed. The other women worked. And Imani understood in that moment that she had just received something far more valuable than information. She had received trust. She had received a secret that could change everything. And she would have to decide what to do with it. Dante doesn't go back to the penthouse. He doesn't go to his office. Instead, he calls Marcus from the parking lot of Eastbridge and tells him to meet him in 30 minutes at the warehouse on Fulton Street, the one they use for sensitive conversations, the one with no phones, no cameras, nothing that could transmit information to the outside world. Marcus arrives with 2 coffees and a look of careful neutrality. He's Dante's investigator, the man who finds things that don't want to be found. He's been with Dante for 10 years, and in that time, he's learned that Dante's mood matters less than the facts he's about to receive. "I need you to find everything about my mother before she married my father," Dante says. Birth name. Where she came from. Why she changed her identity. Marcus doesn't ask questions. He pulls out a laptop and sits on a metal crate in the corner of the warehouse. His fingers move across the keyboard with practiced efficiency. 3 hours later, he looks up. "She's deep," he says. "Really deep. There's almost nothing from before 1993. Birth certificate exists, name is Marina Delgado. Born in Providence, Rhode Island. 19 years old. Then nothing. No high school records. No employment history. No photographs. It's like she was erased." The name hits Dante like a physical blow. Marina Delgado. Not Lucia. Not the woman he's been visiting every week. What happened to her? Dante asks. Marcus turns the laptop toward him. On the screen is a newspaper article from 1994. Small, buried on page 7 of a Providence newspaper. A woman's name mentioned in connection with federal testimony. Then the name disappears from all public records. Witness protection, Marcus says quietly. Has to be. The timeline, the erasure, the new identity. Someone made a deal, and the government gave her a new life. Dante's mind is moving now, calculating, running through implications. If his mother was in witness protection, that means she testified against someone. That means she had information dangerous enough to warrant federal protection. That means everything in Dante's life, his father, his family, his foundation, is built on a secret that could unravel everything. Keep digging, Dante says. I need to know who she testified against. I need to know what she knew. Marcus nods and returns to the laptop. But before he can search further, Dante's phone rings. Unknown number. He answers it carefully. Mr. Russo. A woman's voice. Professional. Federal. This is Special Agent Catherine Monroe with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. We've been monitoring certain financial activities connected to your organization, and in the course of our investigation, we've come across some information about your mother's case from 1994. We'd like to speak with you about her past. Dante hangs up. He stands in the warehouse in the darkness, understanding now what Imani's whisper meant. It wasn't just a revelation. It was a warning. Federal investigators are closing in on the same trail he is. They know about his mother. They know she has secrets. And if they connect those secrets to his organization, everything collapses. His mother chose imprisonment to protect him. But her secret, the very thing she sacrificed to contain, is already beginning to surface. And now federal investigators are closing in. How long do we have? Marcus asks, reading Dante's expression. Dante thinks about his mother's face. Her resignation. Her apology. I don't know, he says finally. But not long. Dante doesn't wait for the next Tuesday. He arrives at Eastbridge the morning after Marcus discovers Marina Delgado, tells the guards it's an emergency, and sits across from his mother at 8:47 a.m. in a visitation room that smells like industrial cleaner and early morning silence. Lucia knows why he's here. She's been waiting for this conversation for 18 months. My name is Marina Delgado, she begins before he can speak. Her hands rest flat on the metal table, and for the first time, Dante notices how small they are. How capable of violence or tenderness or both. I was born in Providence in 1975. My father was connected to people your father wanted to do business with. That's how we met. She pauses, and Dante realizes she's not asking for permission to tell him. She's simply choosing to. Your father wasn't the man you think he was. He was a good man in some ways, he loved me, he wanted a better life, but he was also ruthless. He worked for people far more dangerous than himself. When I became pregnant with you, I understood something. Those people would never let us leave. You would grow up in that world. You would become like them. Lucia's eyes meet his. Not apologetic. Steady. So I made a deal with the federal government. I testified against the people your father worked for. I gave them names, dates, locations. Enough to dismantle part of their operation. In exchange, they gave me a new identity, a new life, and protection. They gave me the chance to raise you as Marina Delgado's son instead of as prey. Dante feels something shift in his chest. This is his mother, the woman who visited him in the penthouse, who loved him without judgment, reframing her entire existence. Not as a victim saved by the government, but as a strategist who negotiated her own liberation. Your father didn't know, she continues. He thought I left him because I fell in love with someone else. Vincent Russo was a federal agent. They created the marriage. They created the cover that would let us disappear completely. The words hang between them. Dante's father, the man who taught him that control was everything, was part of the deception. Was perhaps even, in some way, complicit in his own erasure from Dante's life. Why tell me now? Dante asks. Because the past is catching up with us, and you need to understand something. Lucia leans forward slightly. I didn't do this to victimize you or to build your empire on lies. I did this to protect you from a certain kind of life. But you built that life anyway. You became what I was trying to save you from. The truth of this hits Dante like a blade. Dante walks into his penthouse at 6:17 p.m. and finds Marcus waiting in the dark. The investigator stands by the window, city lights casting shadows across his face. He doesn't need to speak. Dante already knows what he's found. They're building a case, Marcus says. Federal prosecutors. They've connected your mother's testimony from 1994 to 3 different organizations you currently operate in. They're arguing that you inherited operational knowledge that came directly from her position as a witness. If they can prove your empire is built on information from her testimony, they can argue RICO violations across the board. Dante pours a drink. His hands are steady. This is what he does, he processes information and makes decisions. The only difference is that this time, the person at the center of the case is his mother. How long? He asks. 3 weeks, maybe 4. They're waiting for more documentation. But they're close. And the woman from the prison? Imani Walker? Marcus meets his eyes. That's the complicated part. She's the one who knows Lucia's secret. If federal investigators find her first, they'll use her as a cooperating witness. She'll testify about your mother's real identity, corroborate everything. Dante sets down his glass. For years, he's understood power as expansion. More territory. More operations. More money. More control. But sitting in his penthouse, watching his investigator lay out the destruction of everything he built, Dante understands something his mother tried to teach him. Sometimes power means protection instead. Sometimes power means surrender. I need you to do something, Dante says. I need you to find Imani Walker and approach her with an offer. Early release from her sentence. Fresh start. New identity if she wants it. Whatever it takes. But the condition is absolute. She tells no one what she knows about my mother. Marcus's expression doesn't change, but something shifts in his eyes. Understanding. You're protecting her. I'm protecting my mother, Dante corrects. But yes, I'm protecting Imani too. She did what conscience demanded. She should be rewarded for that, not destroyed by it. That's not how the game works, Dante. Then I'm changing the game, Dante says. He walks to his desk and pulls out a burner phone. He dials a number he memorized years ago, a federal agent's direct line. When the voice answers, Dante doesn't hesitate. This is Dante Russo. I want to make a deal. I have information about the Petrov organization's operations in the Northeast. I'll give you everything, locations, personnel, financial records. Full cooperation. In exchange, I want the investigation into my mother's case closed. Quietly. No grand jury, no further inquiry. She's served her time. She's done. There's a long silence on the other end. That's an interesting proposal, Agent Monroe finally says. It's not a proposal, Dante replies. It's a condition. Take it or I disappear everything. You'll have nothing. He knows, as he says it, that this is the moment his empire begins to crumble. By cooperating with federal investigators, by giving them the Petrov organization, he's marking himself as a traitor in the underworld. His organization will fracture. His rivals will move in. His power, carefully constructed over 17 years, will collapse. But his mother will be safe. I'll need to speak with my supervisors, Monroe says. You have 48 hours, Dante responds, and hangs up. Marcus stares at him. You understand what you just did? Dante looks at his investigator, the man who's been with him longer than almost anyone, and nods. I finally understood what my mother was trying to teach me, he says quietly. Real power isn't about control. It's about being willing to lose everything to protect what matters. The people I testified against, their families, their organizations, some of them have never forgotten. The federal government has protected us, but that protection has limits. And now, with investigators closing in on my past, those limits are being tested. Lucia's hand slides across the metal table. Not asking for his hand, just offering proximity. I chose to come to prison because I thought it would buy us time. I thought it would make me look like a reformed woman cooperating with the system. I thought it would protect you. She pauses. But you need to understand, I didn't do any of this because I'm weak. I did it because I'm powerful. And power means making choices other people can't comprehend. For the first time, Dante sees his mother clearly. Not as the gentle woman who visited his penthouse, but as someone who negotiated with governments, who survived witness protection, who sacrificed 30 years of her real identity to give her son a different life. Someone far more dangerous than he ever imagined. Someone he finally understands. Dante sits in his penthouse at midnight, nursing bourbon that tastes like memory. The city below sprawls like a territory he's about to lose. He thinks about his father, Vincent Russo, the federal agent who played a criminal, and understands for the first time that there are different ways to be powerful. His father protected people through deception. His mother protected people through sacrifice. Dante realizes he's been trying to be both without understanding either. By dawn, he's made his decision. He calls Marcus and tells him to set up a meeting. Not at the warehouse, not at any of their usual locations. Somewhere neutral. Somewhere no one would think to look. A coffee shop in Queens. Monday at noon. Imani Walker arrives 7 minutes early. Dante notices this. She's someone who understands the value of control. She sits across from him at a corner table, and for a moment, neither speaks. The prison cook and the crime boss, separated by everything and nothing. You told me my mother's name, Dante says finally. I need you to understand why you did that. Because she deserved better than silence, Imani replies. Because she was protecting you, and you didn't even know you needed protection. Dante nods. This is what he expected. What he hoped for. I'm going to make a deal with you, he says. One that will change your life. Federal investigators are building a case against my organization. They want to use you as a witness. They'll pressure you. They'll tell you cooperation is your only option. He slides an envelope across the table. This is a contract with a law firm. They'll get you out. Early release. All the paperwork filed, all the judges paid off, all the system manipulated the way I know how to manipulate it. You'll be free within 2 weeks. Imani's expression doesn't change, but her hands tighten slightly on her coffee cup. In exchange, Dante continues, you tell no one what you know about my mother. Not federal investigators. Not journalists. Not anyone. Ever. You take what you know and you let it die with you. That's it? Imani asks. You just want me to stay silent? No, Dante says. I want you to start a new life. New name if you want it. New city. New identity. I'll fund it completely. Whatever you need to build something real, something that's yours. But the price is that secret stays buried. Imani leans back in her chair. She's studying him, this man who just arrived to free her, to buy her silence, to change her trajectory completely. Why? She asks finally. Because my mother risked everything to protect me from a certain kind of life. And I spent 17 years building exactly that life anyway. I can't undo the years I've wasted. But I can protect her from the consequences of loving me. He pauses, and something in his voice hardens slightly. Federal investigators will get my organization instead. They'll get the Petrov family. They'll get enough evidence to dismantle operations that have destroyed thousands of lives. My mother's secret stays buried, but justice still happens. Just not the kind that destroys her. Imani takes the envelope. She holds it like it's something holy. You've changed, she says quietly. I've finally understood what power actually means, Dante replies. My mother taught me through sacrifice. Now I'm learning to teach it through my own. He stands to leave. Welcome to your new life, Ms. Walker. Try to make it better than the one I'm about to abandon. The federal investigation moves faster than Dante anticipated. Agent Monroe calls with an ultimatum. They need Lucia's testimony. They need her to go on record about her original deal, about the people she testified against in 1994, about the conditions of her witness protection. Without her testimony, they can't move forward with the prosecution. They're giving him 72 hours. Marcus brings the news to Dante at 6:47 a.m., and Dante understands immediately. The feds are closing in differently than he expected. They don't want to expose Lucia. They want to use her. They want to make her testify publicly, which means her identity becomes part of the court record. Her secret dies in a federal courthouse. Dante has 3 days to stop it. He makes 17 phone calls. Not to his criminal contacts, those avenues are closing as his organization collapses, but to legitimate ones. A federal judge he met through charitable donations. A senator whose son he helped with a legal matter years ago. A prosecutor who owes him a favor from before his cooperation agreement. He calls in every marker, every debt, every relationship built on genuine connection rather than fear. By hour 36, he has a path. There's a cold case in the Midwest, a murder from 1989 that's been unsolved for 35 years. Lucia doesn't know about it. Marcus doesn't know about it. But Dante's research team found it, a killing directly connected to one of the families Lucia testified against. A case that's about to go cold permanently because the statute of limitations is expiring. If that case gets solved, if a witness emerges who can testify about that murder, then the prosecutors have leverage they don't currently possess. They won't need Lucia's testimony about the original 1994 deal. They'll have something better. Closure on a case that's haunted the victim's family for decades. Dante finds that witness. It takes money. It takes negotiation. It takes understanding that sometimes power means knowing exactly what to offer someone to make them do the right thing. The witness is a man who's spent 35 years carrying guilt, who's been waiting for permission to speak. Dante doesn't manipulate him. He simply gives him a clear choice and helps him choose correctly. The witness comes forward on day 2. The case breaks open. The prosecutors suddenly have everything they need without Lucia's public testimony. They move forward with their charges against the Petrov organization. They build their case on solid evidence that doesn't require exposing a 30-year-old witness protection deal. Agent Monroe calls Dante at 9:17 p.m. on day 3. Your mother's testimony is no longer necessary, she says. We have what we need. Dante hangs up without responding. He drives to Eastbridge and arrives during evening visiting hours. Lucia is waiting. Somehow she always knows when he's coming. She sits across from him in the visitation room, and Dante sees something in her expression shift. She understands what he's done. She understands that her son didn't compromise. That he didn't negotiate her truth away. That he protected her through sacrifice instead of through control. How? She asks simply. I found another way, Dante says. I used my power to protect someone else's truth first. And in doing that, I protected yours. Lucia reaches across the metal table, and for the first time since she was arrested, she cries. Not tears of relief, but tears of recognition. Her son has finally become worthy of her sacrifice. 6 months later, the world has reorganized itself around Dante's absence from it. His criminal organization has fragmented. The territories he controlled have been claimed by other families. The Petrov organization, dismantled by federal investigators armed with evidence Dante provided, left a power vacuum that filled quickly with those hungry enough to take it. Marcus moved on to work for a legitimate consulting firm. The penthouse on Manhattan was sold to a tech entrepreneur who didn't know its history. Dante doesn't miss any of it. He works now in a converted warehouse in Brooklyn, where the light comes through high windows and the space smells like possibility instead of power. He's built an organization, smaller, quieter, dedicated to housing insecurity and re-entry programs for people leaving prison. The work pays almost nothing. It requires everything. Imani Walker surfaces once, 6 months after her release, to send him a postcard. It shows mountains he doesn't recognize, and on the back, 3 words, "Thank you. Living well." That's all he needs. She's building something real. She's moved on. She's free. On a Tuesday at 2 p.m., Dante sits across from his mother in the visitation room of Eastbridge. Lucia will be released in 3 weeks. Her sentence is complete. The federal investigators have moved on to other cases. Her secret remains buried, known only by Dante, by Imani, by Agent Monroe, and by Lucia herself. "Tell me about this new work," Lucia says, and unlike every other Tuesday for the past 6 months, she's not asking him about the empire. She's not asking him about business or power or territory. She's asking him about what he's building. Dante describes the programs. The people they've helped. The funding models. The partnerships with community organizations. He tells her about a woman who went from homeless to housed. About a man who completed his GED through their re-entry program. About the possibility that small actions, sustained over time, might actually reshape the world. Lucia listens the way she's always listened, with complete attention. But something has changed between them. The dynamic of protection has inverted. He's no longer trying to shield her from the world. She's no longer playing the role of victim who needs shielding. There's simply 2 people, speaking truth. "Your father would have been proud," Lucia says. The real Vincent Russo, the federal agent. He spent his entire life trying to prevent people from becoming what he was pretending to be. He'd recognize what you're doing. "And the man I was pretending to be?" Dante asks. "The crime boss? He needed to die," Lucia says simply. "For you to live." After the visit, Dante drives back to Brooklyn. The city looks different now, less like territory to be conquered, more like a place where people are trying to build lives worth living. He thinks about what his mother said. About death and rebirth. About the person he was and the person he's becoming. 3 weeks later, Lucia is released on a Tuesday at 10:47 a.m. Dante picks her up in a car that's clean and ordinary. They drive to a house in Queens, small, modest, with a garden that needs work. It's the house where Dante will live, where his mother will live, where they'll begin something that doesn't have a name yet. It's not redemption. Redemption is for people who were lost. It's reconstruction. It's taking the broken pieces of a life built on lies and slowly, carefully, learning to build something true. They sit on the porch as evening arrives, and for the first time in his adult life, Dante Russo feels the weight of all he's lost settle into something that might, someday, become peace. His mother reaches over and takes his hand. Neither of them speaks. There's nothing left to say. The secret is safe. The truth is spoken. The protection flows both ways now. And from the ashes of everything he destroyed, something real is finally beginning to grow.